Today, we're going to talk about something that too often gets hidden in the shadows of early motherhood. It's called postpartum psychosis. It's a really severe condition, but it's also treatable, and just understanding it is the very first step toward breaking a pretty dangerous silence.
And to really get what this is all about, we're going to hear from Rachel Waters. She went through postpartum psychosis herself after having 2 of her children. Her courage in sharing her story is what helps us move past just, clinical terms and into what this is like for a real person.
So, to get some perspective here, we have to start with this number, 1 in 7. That's how many women experience some kind of perinatal mood or anxiety disorder. Now, postpartum psychosis is much rarer than that, but it's part of this much, much bigger maternal health crisis that's often completely invisible. Which brings us to our first section. We're going to look at the huge gap between what society expects from new moms and the catastrophic reality some of them are facing, totally in silence.
Society paints this perfect picture that after you have a baby, the only thing you should feel is this overwhelming joy. But the truth is, for so many women, that feeling is just not there. Instead, it's interrupted by really severe mental health challenges. And that pressure to pretend to be happy creates this dangerous stigma that can stop mothers from speaking up when they desperately need help.
So let's get really specific. It's so important to understand that postpartum psychosis is not the same thing as other more common perinatal mood disorders. They're very different.
And the definition? Well, it's stark for a reason. Postpartum psychosis is a medical emergency. This is not the baby blues. It's not even postpartum depression. It is a severe illness, and it requires immediate, expert medical care.
And what this chart really shows you is the scale of it all. So while those general mood disorders affect a staggering 1 in 7 mothers, postpartum psychosis is much, much rarer. We're talking just 1 to 2 women for every 1,000 births. And that rarity is a big part of why it's so misunderstood.
Okay, so knowing how to recognize the illness is the absolute critical next step. Let's take a look at the key risk factors and the specific symptoms, which can be just deeply disturbing and confusing for everyone involved, the mother and her family.
So the single biggest predictor is a personal or family history of bipolar disorder. But things like trauma and severe sleep deprivation, which, let's be honest, almost every new parent goes through, are also major triggers. But here's the crucial part. More than half of the women who experience this have no prior psychiatric history at all.
And to really understand the symptoms, it helps so much to hear them described firsthand. This quote from Rachel Waters, it just vividly illustrates the terrifying nature of auditory hallucinations, hearing things that aren't actually there, just over and over and over again.
Rachel's experience is really a window into the bigger clinical picture. The symptoms can be anything from delusions and hallucinations to completely disorganized thinking, or developing strange beliefs, like thinking a billboard has a secret personal message just for you. It's a profound, terrifying break from reality.
Now, this is a critical point. The symptoms aren't always there 24/7. A mother can have moments or even hours where she seems totally fine, completely lucid. This up and down nature can make it incredibly difficult for a family to really grasp how severe the situation actually is.
But here is the most important part of this entire story. There is a clear road to recovery. Postpartum psychosis is absolutely treatable. There is hope.
So what does that look like? Well, recovery starts with getting help, fast. A typical treatment plan usually involves a mix of medication, getting restorative sleep, often a short stay in the hospital to make sure everyone is safe, and then ongoing counseling. With that kind of support, women do get better.
In this message from Postpartum Support International, it's just vital. The shame and the self-blame that mothers can feel is just overwhelming. So hearing these words, "You are not alone, you are not to blame," it's life-giving. It's really the first step in taking apart that stigma.
And all of this brings us to our final and, frankly, our most urgent section. Understanding this condition isn't just some academic exercise. It's about saving lives. It's about breaking this epidemic of silence.
Because the stakes could not be higher. For cases of postpartum psychosis that go untreated, the suicide rate is a tragic 5%.
And tragically, in the height of an episode, about 4% of untreated mothers kill their child. Now, this is not about villainizing mothers, not at all. It's about recognizing the devastating power of an untreated illness.
Which leaves us with a final, crucial question. Our culture is obsessed with the new baby, right? But the mother's well-being often feels like an afterthought. So what if we shifted our focus? What if we supported the mother with that same intensity? Just imagine how many lives could be saved